This is a get ready with me with a little bit of a health update. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. I thought I could do a quick get ready with me on this channel as a video to give you a bit of a update on my health situation. In case you didn't know, I had quite a bit of a health scare in May and June, and I'm finally on the mend. I'm finally starting to do better. We still don't know what's going on exactly, but I will be sharing in this video what has sort of been happening in my body. Again, I'm not a medical professional. I'm just going to tell you about my experiences, and I think that's valid as well. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of an update of how I've been doing, what we've been doing to try and figure out what's going on, and some of the things that I have finally found really help me. So there's a reason why I'm doing better, you could say. So I'm just going to whack some makeup on. I'll make sure to list all of those products in the description box down below. This video isn't necessarily about the makeup. This is not my makeup channel. But I do want to keep these more personal things on this channel, you could say. So here's the primer situation that we're working with. And as I mentioned, I do have a bit of an update for you, but I don't have a diagnosis. I think before we even know what's going on, it's going to take like another couple of months, I'm sure. But I am doing better, and I have found some particular things that have made me feel better. And I will be in touch with a doctor in a few weeks' time to discuss what our next steps might be. Because the doctors have been a little bit sort of holding off, because sort of the conclusion I was already coming to quite quickly when things started happening in May is a conclusion that the doctor has now come to as well. And that is that I was wrongly prescribed loads of different meds, and that actually made the situation worse instead of better. So in case you didn't know, I think I talked about it on my main channel mainly. So let me take you back to about mid-May. I was already experiencing some symptoms for a few months where I wasn't really sure what was going on. I couldn't pinpoint it really well. I couldn't get I couldn't really figure out what it was that was happening to me. I just knew that something was going on. And for the longest time, actually, because this started happening around Christmas time, I started to feel really tired. And then a couple of weeks later, other things started to happen in my body. And I was like, is this still part of the entire thoracic outlet syndrome thing? Because in case you didn't know, just over a year ago, I was diagnosed with thoracic outlet syndrome, and I was given an explanation for years, at least 3 years, possibly 20 years of chronic pain and worsening symptoms on my body, and it just wasn't a great deal. But yeah, that really helped. I started to work out again. I was feeling great. And then this winter, things started to change again. And so for the longest time, because I had read somewhere that any sort of nerve-related issue, in case you don't know what thoracic outlet syndrome is, there are different types. In my case, it was a nerve that was being compressed between my collarbone, my clavicle, and my first rib. And it wasn't just one nerve, actually. It was a bundle of nerves, and your nerves run everywhere, and they sort of make sure that your muscles can relax and do all those kind of things. So that was all distorted and whatnot. And I had read somewhere that sort of not necessarily nerve damage, but any sort of nerve related problem can take up towards a year for it to truly be healed. And you can really say okay, this is going the way it now should. So I was sort of waiting for some of those symptoms to still go away as well, as I started to get really tired again. And I was like, something's going on. And then around end of February, I started to have swelling of my legs if I walked for a little bit longer than 10 to 15 minutes. And then my hands started to hurt, and my joints in my hands started to dislocate really randomly. It was very, very strange. So I couldn't really pinpoint what that could be. And like I said, I just thought that maybe it was still this the results of me still healing from that nerve that was stuck, because nerves healing takes a while. So I had just sort of categorized it as that, and I wasn't really thinking too much about it. I was like, oh, it's just my body healing, and I'm just going through this process, and you know what? It's going to be fine. That's really how I was thinking when this first started happening, until I went to London, actually. So I vlogged that trip for you. That was at the end of April, and while I was on that trip, I started noticing that every night as I was brushing my teeth, I had blue lips. And blue lips is usually a sign of lack of oxygen in your body. And I was like, why is this happening at the end of the day? Maybe it's just a fluke. I've been busy. My hay fever was going through the roof while I was in London. So I had all these explanations and reasons for why these things were happening to me. So I wasn't really thinking much of it until the blue lips kept happening for like 2 weeks straight. And my doctor's office was closed because they had vacation. So I was like, you know what? I'll just give them a quick call and just to see if there's anything they can like help me with. So they agreed that we would like get some blood work done. This was like mid-May. And the doctor said during that meeting, like, hey, if you experience any shortness of breath in the next couple of weeks or chest pains or anything like that, give us a call. And lo and behold, that weekend after that meeting with my doctor, I was getting shortness of breath in a way I have never experienced before, by the way. I was tested once for asthma, and I don't really have asthma, but I do have exercise-induced asthma, so I get out of breath when I, like, do any sort of cardio, you could say. But it wasn't that. Like, I was at a yoga class, and all of a sudden I was this weirdly out of breath. I was like, I need to stop this class if this keeps on going this way. It stopped, and I was fine for the rest of the day until the next day. I was just doing laundry. I was going up and down stairs to, grab another load, put it up, whatever. And I was like, I'm so out of breath. I'm so winded. Like, what's going on here? I'm not used to this. And I just thought maybe I'm coming down with the flu. I was like feeling a little achy. And then I went to bed later that night and I was experiencing like this pressure on my chest. Like someone was like pushing down on it really, really hard right around here. I was like, okay. But I still thought maybe I'm coming down with a cold or with a flu of some kind. So I wasn't really thinking too much of it. I took some paracetamol, went to bed. And then the next day, as I was trying to get ready to head to work, like I woke up feeling pretty okay, and then I was like, oh, but I feel trash. I was making breakfast, and actually throughout the day, that Monday, I kept feeling worse and worse and worse. So I decided to call my doctor like later that morning to just like explain like, hey, I'm super short of breath and it keeps getting worse. I had some chest pains last night. I don't know what's going on, but it doesn't seem to be the flu. But I thought usually when I call them that I'm short of breath and whatever, they give me a like asthma meds and I'm good to go. So I thought that was going to happen. So I thought I would just go into my doctor's office. I would prescribe these asthma meds that I've had in the past and I would be done with it. I wasn't. I ended up in the ER and being admitted for checking out my heart and my lungs to see if there wasn't anything like more serious going on, you could say, because the doctor couldn't test that at the doctor's office, and so they were like, we need to rule these things out. So I was taken by ambulance from my doctor's office to the hospital, which was wild. They thought in the hospital that maybe it was just some sort of viral infection. They had tested me for a couple of things, but they couldn't rule out everything, and they were just like, you just need to like wait until you get better type of situation. I was like, okay. I can do that, but I did go see my doctor the next day to like, and they were like, okay, we'll give you those asthma meds, which were the asthma meds, which I thought would get in the first place. And those didn't work. Like it didn't do anything for the shortness of breath. And so usually they work straight away, right? You take these meds and they like, I don't know how to describe in English what it is that they do, but you have parts of your lungs and the meds sort of make it like open up wider so you can actually take deeper breaths. That's sort of at least how it feels to me. So that's what I was given, and it didn't do anything. It didn't make any changes. So I went back to my doctor again to let him know, like, it's not making any changes. They're like, no, they just think you're ill and you need to just wait it out. And then that night already, but I wasn't really sure what it was. I thought I had actually dreamt it when I woke up the next day. But I thought that from like the inside of my mouth, my tongue was swelling up, and that like I could barely lay down to sleep because of my tongue just falling into the back of my throat, and it was blocking my airway. And then, like I said, I woke up the next day thinking that I had just dreamt that it wasn't really a thing because it had sort of gone down, and I didn't like really experience too many symptoms. The only thing that I was really suffering from at the time was that the minute I would start talking, I would start coughing. And we were in for a long, like, bank holiday weekend, and I spoke to one of my colleagues, and they were like, but Micah, you can't, like, if anything happens to you over the weekend, nobody will be on call again until Tuesday. You can't go on like this. And I was like, no, you're right. And then that night, as I was going to bed, I could really clearly feel that tongue swelling. I was like, okay, I didn't imagine it. And I woke up the next morning, and it still wasn't there. Like, that night, I had to sleep sitting up straight because else I couldn't breathe. And it just felt really, really bad. And it wasn't like swelling like where your tongue is like hanging out of your mouth and you can't talk anymore. It was just like constricted inside of my throat, I feel. And so I went to my doctor again, and they thought because of the tongue swelling that possibly it could be allergies. I had to wait a month for the appointment with the allergy specialist, and they were like, this is not an allergy, which I kind of already knew. But from that moment onward, my doctor kept prescribing me allergy meds, and the swelling kept coming back. And so I was given more meds and more meds and more meds. After like a week and a half, I was taking this concoction of meds, and it was still like the swelling still came back, which was not a good thing. So I went back to my doctor again, telling them this, and they're like, okay, you need to see a specialist like ASAP. So I went to see a doctor at the hospital again, someone who specializes in internal medicine the next day. And I had just been like given so many more new meds, so I was so out of it that I barely remember that appointment actually. And they were like, well, you are taking so many meds that actually I cannot test a lot of the things I would want to test because the meds you've been put on will interfere with the outcomes of the blood tests and stuff. So I was like, okay, that's grand. But because at that moment in time, there wasn't too much, like you couldn't see anything, like there was no swelling in my throat anymore, because I had just been given so many other meds the night before. So, because the meds, like, they were helping, like, for a day or two, and then things would come back again, which is really strange and really weird. And then, like, the day after I went to see that doctor, they were like, okay, we're just going to have to do some tests, do some blood work. It's going to take a couple of weeks. And we're going to, like, do a, what's it called? An ultrasound of, like, your neck and stuff to see what's going on there. And then we will know more. And that weekend, after I went to see that doctor, was, like, the worst one out of the entire episode. My hands started to swell up. I was leaking fluids from underneath my fingernails. It was quite scary. And this was, again, on the weekend, so nobody knew what was going on. I had to call them again. They were like, no, you have to wait until Monday to go see your own doctor again, which in hindsight, they shouldn't have told me to do. But hey, like a good girl, I listened, and then I had to go to the emergency room again that Monday because the shortness of breath and the coughing came back that I was experiencing before I ever was put on the meds. So it was like really, really strange. Nobody has been able to find anything. All of my blood tests come out clear. The ultrasound came out clear. They took 2 chest x-rays. The first time I was admitted to hospital in the ER, they also did like a cardiac like monitor and stuff, and that was all fine. They've checked me for like I think it's called emphysema in English. They checked me for that. That wasn't it. So nobody really knows really well what's going on. And the doctor has already told me, like, I'm not sure if we're ever going to find out what actually happened to you. But there are still like weird things that are going on. And since even when the second time I went to the ER, that's when I was like, I told my job, like, I'm going to call in sick. I did call in sick the first time for 3 days, but I came back and I was like, I just can't keep going on like this. And my colleague was like, no, you can't. So I took some time off work, and the minute, like, I just noticed that the minute I start, like, if I just rested completely, the swelling would go down and I would feel a lot better. But then the minute I would, like, exert myself in any way, shape, or form, like getting groceries or going for a walk, things would start to swell up again in my legs, in my neck. It was really, really strange. After about a week and a half to 2 weeks, I was on a number of phone calls, and at the end of the day, my neck had swelled up again just from talking on the phone to some people and recording a couple of videos. So that was really weird, but I was slowly but surely starting to feel a little bit better. And then I think the day I went to see the allergy specialist, they did do some blood work there as well, but again, save for the hay fever that I was tested for like more than a decade ago, they haven't been able to find anything, save from like some cross allergens. Like if you're already allergic to one thing, you can also be allergic to other things. And so apparently I'm allergic to strawberries, hazelnuts, and soy, but if I heat it up, then it's fine. And I never eat, like, especially soy was apparently something I really shouldn't be eating. So I shouldn't be eating like soy yogurts or like soy milk and things like that, which I'm not anyways. So, and strawberries, like it's strawberry season right now. I've already had loads of strawberries this year, and I haven't noticed anything as to like I'm eating a strawberry and ooh, things start to swell up. And she also told me, like, you should just experience some itchiness in your throat. And I'm like, never have that when I eat a strawberry. So that was very inconclusive as well. But I did find something that has been helping with the swelling. And now I need to just get a doctor to accept that that's what's going on. But that's going to be like step 2 of the journey. I'm just happy that I'm doing so much better now than I did a couple of weeks ago. And the thing that I have figured out, because the swelling happens in places in my body where I know lymph nodes occur. So the lymph nodes themselves are fine. That's what the ultrasound of my neck was for, to check out my lymph nodes, and they're fine. So again, nothing too serious going on there. It just seems to be that like my lymphatic system isn't like working the best. And so I just saw these like videos on TikTok of like how to do lymphatic drainage massage on yourself. And I started doing that the day I went to see that allergy specialist, and lo and behold, my hands stopped swelling up as quickly. I was able to tone down the neck swelling, and it would still swell up, but not as bad anymore. And after me doing these massages for 2 weeks, I had gotten to the point where my neck would it wouldn't swell up noticeably anymore. And I was like, okay, I think I have found something. But it was in my stomach, my legs, just my entire body was just one big swelling. So then I decided to go see my physical therapist. And in case you don't know the lore, it was my physical therapist who told me when I was diagnosed with the thoracic outlet syndrome, like, hey, I think you might have thoracic outlet syndrome. It was actually 2 physios separate from each other who told me this before I ever was diagnosed by a doctor. So I trust this woman with my life. And she, because I've seen so many, like I've spent so much time at a doctor's office these past couple of weeks, I saw, like, because they're in the same building as my doctor's office, my physio is, and I saw it written on the notification where they're promoting their services that it says that she is also a lymphatic drainage therapist. So I was like, I'm going to hit her up and see what she can do for me. So I went there last week on Monday, and I'm seeing her again this week. As I'm filming this, you're going to see this a little bit later, but I'm going to see her again this week. And after that treatment, things have improved even more than what I've been able to do myself. So I just know from how my body has responded to this therapy that like my lymphatic system just wasn't draining everything from my system. Like everything was still working. Like they checked out my kidneys, they checked out like everything to see if it was like functioning properly, and everything still works. Like nothing is broken. I'm not broken. I just feel like it probably wasn't working as hard as it should. And I did work out. Like I stopped doing most of my workouts in April because I couldn't deal anymore. That was another sign to me to like indicate that something wasn't quite right, because usually I work out like 3 to 4 times a week. And with the TOS, like the thoracic outlet syndrome, I couldn't do that. So I worked really hard in the second half of 2025 to get myself back into a workout routine. And I had finally like gotten to a point where I was like really like getting the gains out of that workout routine, and then I had to stop again, which was a bit of a shame. I missed so many of my dance classes and things like that because of this, which is a shame, but you know, nothing you can do really. But it's almost as if like every single time still, like if I go for a walk, I can feel it in my legs. If I think in my stomach, it has to do with my digestive system. Like you eat, your digestive system is working around the clock. So that's where some of the swelling in my stomach came from. But like one visit to my physio and my body seems to be regulating that a lot better again itself. Like I went there, it's now been just over a week. And the swelling in my hands is now completely gone. Like it's not like I was experiencing when I was doing it myself. I was still experiencing like some tingling sensations and itchiness and stuff in my hands. That's now completely gone. Also the neck swelling, like I'm able to like tone it down a lot. But I do think because your lymphatic system is really important in like your immune system and how everything works. I'm not sure if you can see, but there's a reason why there's a cold sore right now. I'm convinced that my body is just working through something that it just didn't work through, I think, for the past couple of months, and it all just kind of got stuck inside my system. And I can actually feel like everything working when I'm like resting, when I'm lying down in bed, especially like the day after I went to see my physio. It was like from my toes up, it was like, I was like, okay, something is making the round, something is happening. So I'm glad I found something that works again. Like I said, I'm going to see her again in a couple of days time. She wanted an update on how I was doing and how I fared with it. And I hope that we can like have a couple of meetings in the next couple of months and weeks to come to hopefully help and support my system as much as possible. And that will hopefully give me some time to, like with the doctor, to figure out what's actually going on, because it does come back. Like the minute I move, things do come back. And I'm not sure how to manage that. Apparently compression is one way of doing that, which I can try. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure how to go about it just yet. But that seems to be what was happening. If I look back on the past 2 months or so, I think that one of the things that started to happen is that in my throat, the swelling of my neck just started to constrict my throat on the inside, which is why nobody was able to see anything because it was so far down. It was like way down here. And they couldn't really see that. And, you know, by the time I had that ultrasound of my neck, they really only checked my lymph nodes and nothing else, I feel. But you also couldn't see it. Like, they took a chest x-ray of this, and I went to see an ear, throat, whatever specialist as well, and they went inside my nose and my throat area with a camera, but that was until my vocal cords, and I kept feeling like it's like just below it. It's like my windpipe is being crushed by the swelling in my neck, and I think that's where the shortness of breath and the coughing came from. Even though, like, it's been observed that that was what the issue is, it's just that nobody believed me that that was the root cause of the issue. They just thought I had a weird cough. And that it was like a virus of some kind. So I think it has to do with something a little bit differently than what everybody's thinking, and I'm not sure what the future is going to bring or how I'm going to get this to figure out. Or whether I even should get it figured out. Like, at this point, I really don't know. But know that I'm doing a lot better than I did. Maybe you've noticed that I feel a little bit chipper in my videos. But also, if you go back to my videos, I feel you can really see it. That my face in the past couple of weeks has very much slimmed down. And no, I haven't lost weight. It was all fluid retention. So this has gotten a lot like thinner, and my face has gotten like a lot smaller. Same for my stomach, my legs. Like, it's so weird. It was like all over my system. So that was fun. And I do think that, you know, it takes a while for these things to be figured out. And like I said, it was also a struggle bus for me to even like be able to pinpoint what was going on. I just couldn't tell what was going on in my body. I just knew that something wasn't right. So I don't know what the future will hold, if I'll ever know what's going on with me or not, like the doctor already said. But it probably didn't help that my GP or family physician, whatever you want to call them, just acted upon the assumption of it being allergies and sticking me full of allergy meds, which actually can also, again, make your body hold on to fluids as well. So it probably didn't help. It probably made me feel worse, which is why in the next couple of weeks I'm going to have another phone call with the doctor, and then I can hopefully give her this update of like, hey, I went to see my physical therapist, and that really made the change. But yeah, she believes that a lot of my symptoms were caused by all of those meds, which could have been part of it. Probably the issues with my hands and stuff, that wasn't there at the beginning. So that really is something that did come later and could have been caused by all of the meds I was taking. So they were trying to help, and they tried their best, and like to the best of their abilities, of course. But the meds they put me on probably made things worse, and it actually made it almost impossible to figure out what was going on. So I hope that this summer I can have like a little bit of a reset. The plan is, if things keep going well, to go back to working out once I come back from vacation, and then see how things go. And then maybe it will build up again like it did in the past, but maybe if I just keep going to my physio regularly, I may be able to manage it quite well. And especially now that like my body seems to be doing it itself again. I don't need to, like when I started the massages myself, I had to do this massage technique every single night just to just to manage the symptoms. One visit to my physio, and now my body is doing it itself. I sometimes need to give it a little bit of a hand. I've only done the massage technique I taught myself through TikTok videos like once in the past week and a half. Just once. Instead of doing it every single night for 2.5 weeks straight until I went to see my physio. So she's doing something that I cannot do myself, that's for sure. And maybe I just need to keep seeing her for a little while, and hopefully that can like reboot my system, and it's going to be fine. And maybe if I just go see her once a month, I might be doing that. I'm going to just wear a bit of clear lip balm because I have the cold sore now. And this is actually, this Carmex cherry flavor is I have a cold sore lip product. I have one particular lip balm that I only wear when I have a cold sore. So I don't contaminate the rest of my lipsticks. So I only wear that lip gloss or lip balm when I'm going through this. So yeah, thanks so much for watching this video today. I really hope you enjoyed hearing my story of what's been going on. Like I said, I don't know yet what's going on. And the question is, will I ever know what's going on? You just don't know at this point in time. So that is a bit of a shame, but maybe we'll figure it out at some point. If things don't come back, it may have just been a bit of a scary episode in my life, and maybe that's the end of it as well. So I hope that that's the case, actually, and that I can just keep moving forward from this moment out onwards, and that I can keep living my life, which is looking a lot more hopeful than it did like a month or 6 weeks ago. So thanks so much for being here today, and I hope you'd like to check back for more with a new video next week. See you then. Bye-bye.